Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Elder Insights, your trusted guide to navigating life's most important moments with wisdom and care. I hope you're doing well today, and I'm grateful that you've taken a few minutes to join us. Now let's dive into something many of us don't like to think about, but it's something we all must face at some point. What happens if your spouse passes away first? It's a heartbreaking and overwhelming thought, but what's even more overwhelming is the potential to make costly mistakes that could affect your future. Have you ever wondered what those mistakes could be? What if I told you that a simple misstep could put your finances, your peace of mind, and your future security in jeopardy? In this video, we're going to talk about 5 critical mistakes that many people unknowingly make when faced with the death of a spouse and how you can avoid them. But here's the catch. The most surprising and potentially life-changing tip comes at the end of this video, and trust me, you won't want to miss it. This topic is crucial, especially as we get older. It's not just about avoiding financial losses, it's about protecting your future, your well-being, and most importantly, your peace of mind. If you've ever been unsure about how to handle life after the loss of a spouse, or if you've wondered what steps you should take to safeguard your assets and health, this video is for you. I know that many of you watching have experienced deep loss or have loved ones who are facing this very challenge, and it's not easy. I want you to know that you're not alone in this journey. At Elder Insights, we aim to provide you with the information and support that can help you navigate these difficult times with confidence. It's not about fear, it's about knowledge, preparation, and taking control of your future. So stick around to the end, and remember, the best part is coming soon. And before we jump in, please take a moment to hit that like button, share this video with others who may find it helpful, and subscribe to our channel. Your support is what keeps us going and allows us to create more valuable content just for you. Let's get started. Mistake 1. Making major financial decisions too soon. I remember the days after my wife passed. It felt like the world had gone silent. It wasn't just the outside noise that disappeared, but the quiet inside me, a deep silence that seemed to fill every corner of my life. At first, it felt like it was the only way to survive. I thought isolating myself would make the grief more bearable, but it didn't. The longer I stayed in that shell, the heavier everything became. I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to be around people. I thought avoiding the world would make the pain go away, but it just grew worse. I remember feeling like it was a relief. No need to explain myself. No pressure to put on a smile. No need to keep conversations going. But as the days dragged on, I began to notice things slipping away. I wasn't eating, wasn't sleeping well, and when I did sleep, I woke up feeling more tired than the night before. The things I used to love, gardening, reading, sitting on the porch to watch the sunset, they all seemed out of reach, too far away, too exhausting to even think about. Then one day something shifted. A neighbor of mine, someone I hadn't spoken to in a while, came by. He didn't ask how I was doing or offer comforting words. He simply asked if I wanted to sit down for a cup of coffee. At first, I didn't feel like it. I thought it was just small talk, not worth my time. But something inside me said, why not? That simple act of sitting down across from him, having coffee and talking about nothing in particular, started to break down the walls I had built. It wasn't a quick fix. It didn't take the pain away. But it was a small step. A crack in the isolation that had been suffocating me. Slowly, I began to find comfort in small things again. Talking with that neighbor, attending church, even answering a phone call from an old friend, it all helped me find my way back to the world. I've learned since then that isolation, though it feels natural at the time, doesn't help you heal. It keeps you trapped in your pain, alone with it, and that only makes things harder. Human connection, even if it's just a brief moment, is crucial. Even when you don't feel like talking or being around people, just being with others can lift some of the weight. Small steps, like a walk around the block or making a simple phone call, can reawaken parts of you that you thought were lost. We all need that reminder sometimes. We don't have to face our struggles alone. There are people out there who care, even if it's just for a moment. And those moments, those little breaks from the isolation, add up. They make the journey a little easier, a little brighter. And before you know it, you start to see that you can find your way back. As I continued to reflect on those quiet, isolating days, I came to realize that while solitude can sometimes feel like a refuge, it only deepens the loneliness. The truth is, we are not meant to navigate grief alone. Mistake 2. Isolating yourself from others. I remember the days after my wife passed. It felt like the world had gone silent. It wasn't just the noise of the world outside. It was the quiet inside me. A deep silence that seemed to fill every corner of my life. I didn't want to talk. I didn't want to be around people. I thought isolating myself would somehow make the grief more bearable. But it didn't. The longer I stayed in that shell, the heavier everything felt. It wasn't just the silence, but the weight of it all. The weight of the grief. The weight of loneliness. And the more I isolated myself, the more everything seemed to slip away. At first I thought it was a relief, not having to explain myself, not having to put on a smile for others or keep the conversation going. Just being alone, free from the pressure. But as days turned into weeks, I started to notice how much I was losing. I wasn't eating properly, wasn't sleeping well, and when I did sleep, I woke up feeling more tired than the night before. The things that used to bring me joy, gardening, reading, sitting on the porch to watch the sunset, were becoming distant memories, too far to reach, too exhausting to even think about. One afternoon, something unexpected happened. A neighbor of mine, someone I hadn't seen in a while, came by. He didn't ask me how I was feeling or try to comfort me with words. He just asked if I wanted to sit down and have a cup of coffee. At first, I didn't feel like it. I thought it was just small talk and I couldn't be bothered. But something inside me said, why not? So I agreed. And that simple act, sitting across from him, having coffee, talking about nothing special, started to break down the walls I had built around myself. It didn't take the pain away, of course. It wasn't an instant cure. But it was a step, a small crack in the isolation that had been suffocating me. Slowly, I began to find comfort in small things again. Talking with that neighbor, attending a church service, even answering a phone call from an old friend. Those things helped me reconnect with the world. I've learned since then that isolation, though natural, doesn't help you heal. It keeps you trapped with your pain, alone with it. And that only makes everything worse. Human connection, no matter how small, is crucial. Even if you don't feel like talking or being around people, just being with others can lift some of that weight. Small steps, like taking a walk around the block, making a simple phone call, or just sitting with someone, can help reawaken parts of you that you thought were lost. We all need that reminder sometimes. We don't have to face our struggles alone. There are people out there who care, even if it's just for a brief moment. And those moments, they add up. They make the journey a little easier, a little brighter. And before you know it, you start to realize that you can find your way back. But isolation doesn't just affect our hearts, it impacts our bodies too. And that's when I realized the importance of taking care of myself, not just for the sake of survival, but for healing. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 2 inches below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support allows us to continue sharing valuable insights and inspiration with you. Let's keep moving forward together. Mistake 3, neglecting your health. I've learned that when grief strikes, it doesn't just affect your heart and mind. It takes a toll on your body too. When my wife passed, it felt like a weight I couldn't shake. I was consumed by sorrow, and everything around me started to slip away. Meals became an afterthought. I wasn't eating properly, wasn't sleeping well, and I stopped keeping up with doctor appointments. I thought the grief itself was enough to carry, so I didn't think much about anything else. But soon enough, I started feeling the effects. Weak, tired, sluggish. Like I was running on empty. That was a wake-up call for me. I realized that if I didn't take care of myself, the pain would only get harder to carry. Grief already feels like a heavy burden, but neglecting my health made everything worse. I wasn't just struggling emotionally, I was struggling physically too. One day, a friend of mine who had also lost his wife sat me down and gave me a piece of advice that hit me harder than I expected. He said, "Taking care of yourself isn't a sign that you've moved on or that you're forgetting her. It's a way to honor her. She'd want you to keep going, to stay strong for yourself." Those words really struck a chord with me. Grief can make you feel like everything is falling apart, like it's all you can handle. But I realized that if I didn't take care of my body, I wouldn't be able to handle the grief at all. It wasn't about just surviving, it was about being able to live, to feel healthy enough to keep going. I think of my friend James. At 81, he lost his wife, and like me, he found himself falling into a rut. He wasn't eating properly, barely left the house, and his health started to decline. But it wasn't until his daughter stepped in that things started to change. She gently encouraged him to start eating balanced meals again and drink more water. It wasn't anything drastic, just small changes. But those steps brought him back to life. Over time, he regained some energy, his mood lifted, and he started feeling better. It's funny how the body and mind are so connected. When you're grieving, it's easy to overlook your health. But the truth is, neglecting it only makes everything worse. When you don't take care of your body, it adds another layer of struggle to an already heavy load. I've come to understand that taking care of your body is just as important as taking care of your emotions. You can't heal emotionally if your health is failing physically. That's why, even on the toughest days, I remind myself to prioritize my health, whether it's making sure I eat, get some exercise, or just take a moment to breathe and recharge. So if you're feeling like you can't do it, that taking care of yourself is too much, remember your body needs you, your health needs you. It's okay to grieve, but it's also okay to take small steps to care for yourself. It's not about moving on, it's about moving forward, with the strength you need to honor your past and embrace what comes next. Taking care of your body doesn't mean forgetting your grief. It simply means honoring it by giving yourself the strength to keep moving forward. And in that process, we sometimes face temptations to rush into things too soon, like relationships, thinking it will fill the emptiness. Mistake 4, rushing into a new relationship. I've seen it more times than I can count. People, especially those who've lost their life partners, rushing into a new relationship too soon, thinking it's the answer to their loneliness. Barbara's situation comes to mind right away. After losing her husband of 50 years, she felt like there was this emptiness inside her that needed filling. So she rushed into a new relationship. At first, it felt comforting, like a warm blanket over a cold, lonely heart. But as time passed, things became more complicated. The whirlwind of a new relationship, so full of promises, eventually collided with the reality of her grief. She realized that in her haste, she hadn't given herself space to mourn, to truly process the loss of her husband. And I could see how that happened. After a long marriage, you're suddenly left with silence. And the idea of filling that silence with someone new can feel like the easiest way to survive it. But in doing so, Barbara found that her expectations were skewed. She couldn't help but compare her new partner to her late husband. No one could measure up to the man she had spent decades with. Those comparisons added layers to her grief, making her feel even more conflicted and more isolated than before. Looking back, I realized that we all need time to heal. Grief isn't something you just push aside. It's not something you can outrun by jumping into another relationship. When you rush into something new without fully processing your emotions, it's easy to bring unrealistic expectations into it. You want someone to fill the void, but the truth is, no one can do that. Not in the same way, not in the same time frame. It's important to take a step back and really ask yourself, who am I now? What do I need in my life? What do I want from a relationship? Rediscovering yourself, your own likes, your own needs, your sense of purpose is a vital part of the healing process. Only when you've taken the time to reflect and heal can you truly be ready to open your heart again without dragging the weight of past grief into it. Give yourself the grace to be vulnerable. Take your time, and when the time comes, make sure that when you decide to let someone else in, you're doing it for the right reasons, with a heart that's truly ready. Before we can open ourselves up to new relationships, we need to take the time to heal and rediscover who we are. This also applies to the way we hold on to the past, our memories, our possessions, and everything that once belonged to them. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 4 inches below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Now let's move forward. Mistake 5, holding on to possessions too tightly. When my wife passed, I found myself holding on to everything. I couldn't bring myself to change anything in our home. Her slippers still sat by the door, the ones she always wore after a long day. Her favorite chair, the one she'd always relax in after dinner, remained exactly as she left it. It felt like if I moved anything, if I let go of anything, it would be like letting go of her. I wasn't ready for that. I thought that if I kept everything the same, it would keep her close, like she hadn't really left. But over time, I started to realize that holding on so tightly was only keeping me stuck in my grief. It wasn't easy, but I started with small steps. Donating her clothes was the hardest part, but I knew she wouldn't want me to carry that burden forever. It wasn't about getting rid of her. It was about creating space for myself, for healing. I kept a few things that held deep meaning. Her favorite scarf, the picture of us on our wedding day, and I repurposed some things into keepsakes that allowed me to remember her in a way that felt healthier. Slowly, the weight of grief began to lift. I could breathe a little easier. I remember Harold, an old friend of mine, going through something very similar. After his wife passed, he couldn't bear the thought of changing anything in their house. He kept everything just as it was, as though trying to preserve the life they had built together. But the longer he held on, the more suffocating it became. When he finally started to let go of a few things, it wasn't like he was forgetting her. It was more like he was making room to breathe again. Little by little, Harold started to feel a bit lighter. The space he created didn't erase her memory. It honored it in a way that allowed him to heal. Letting go of possessions can be one of the hardest things to do, especially when they hold so much emotional weight. But it's important to remember that it's not about forgetting the person you loved. It's about finding a way to move forward while still cherishing their memory. It's about creating space in your life for your own healing, your own growth. If you find yourself holding on too tightly, start small. Keep a few meaningful items that bring comfort, but don't be afraid to let go of the things that weigh you down. You don't have to do it all at once. It's okay to take your time. There's no rush. By letting go of what no longer serves you, you're not letting go of them. You're making room to honor their memory in a way that allows you to keep living. As we wrap up today's video, I hope you now have a better understanding of the 5 costly mistakes you must avoid if your spouse passes away first. Remember, this isn't just about making smart financial decisions. It's about protecting your future, your peace of mind, and your ability to live with confidence. Life can change in an instant, but with the right knowledge, you can avoid unnecessary setbacks and ensure that you're prepared for whatever comes next. Take a moment to reflect on what we discussed today. Ask yourself, am I prepared? Have I made these decisions? Or am I letting them slip by? Now is the time to act, and trust me, the steps you take today can make all the difference tomorrow. Before you go, if you found this video helpful, please subscribe to our channel for more tips on living your best life after 60. And don't forget to hit the like button if this video resonated with you. Your support means everything to us. Also, leave a comment below and let us know which of these mistakes you want to avoid, or share any advice you have on this topic. Let's keep the conversation going and help each other out. Thank you for watching Elder Insights today. We look forward to seeing you in our next video, where we'll dive into even more valuable lessons that will help you live your best life. Until then, take care and stay wise.